Hello again, it's Jedi coming to you from the thriving metropolis of Rochester, New York. Today, no gear talk, no make your own gear, no prepping, anything. This is just a story I wanted to tell because it's kind of something funny that happened on one of my AT section hikes. Actually, it was the section hike of the Grayson Highlands, if I remember correctly. So, hanging a bear bag had always been fraught with anxiety for me, right? This is what I had used on that particular trip. This is my Z-Packs bear bag hanging kit, and you can see I've put little reflectors on it to identify it, because when your bear bag is in a bear box with a bunch of other ones, you want to be able to see yours real quick and easy. I have since switched to using an Ursack. This is the Ursack Major XL. This is what I'll be taking on the AT with me, and that there's reasons for that I'll go into on the video that I'm going to shoot later, where I talk about the Ursack, why I made the switch from a bear bagging kit to the Ursack, and some other tips on how to tie the knots and so on. This is just a story I wanted to tell. So my wife and I were doing a section hike of the, as I said, the Grayson Highlands, where the ponies are. And we get to, I think it was our last night actually, and I think it was a Saunders shelter. I could be wrong about that. I could be misremembering that. But we get to the camp, we get to the shelter, and we find it's a perfect area for tenting. There's lots of flat land behind the shelter. We go back about 50 to 75 yards away from the shelter, and find a perfect spot between two fallen logs, that kind of formed a V. We put our tent kind of right in there. Then we could lay stuff on the logs and prepare dinner and whatnot. But I knew I had to hang the bear bag, so the time kind of got away from me, and I went to hang my bear bag, and eventually got up in the tree. That's a different story about the problems I had. I'll tell you that when I talk about the Ursack. But I eventually got my bear bag hung. There were other campers there. There was 2 or 3 other people in tents who were there, and then several people in the shelter. So there were several bear bags had to be hung around, and it was a tricky place because it was nice and open, but the trees weren't that thick. They're kind of thin, and the branches that came out were way up high. It was like a 2-story throw to get your slick line up there. But everyone managed to get their bear bags on. Everything was cool. People seemed to have focused on one particular tree that had a couple of good branches coming off it, or a couple of trees that were in the same area. So anyway, so the night starts, right? So we had had dinner with everyone in front of the shelter, and then it starts to get dark, and we go to bed. And during the night, the wind picked up, and like I said, there were leaves all over the ground, and the wind picked up, and I had some kind of dinner, like black bean cowboy chili thing or something. And this, by the way, is why I'm going to start taking Beano with me on my backpacking trips. But holy cow, I woke up in the night and my stomach was just gurgling. And I was like, oh my God, I think something's going to happen here. I better make it over to the privy before something does happen here. So luckily I had my toilet kit in a tent with me. And so I get up, and it's dark. It's very dark out. I got my headlamp on, and like I said, it's kind of an open, forested area with lots of thin trees, but they're spaced out pretty good. But there's lots of leaves on the ground. I mean, these leaves are probably 6 to 12 inches deep in some spots of these dead leaves, and the wind is blowing, and the leaves are flying through the air, and all I can hear is the trees and the branches going. So I'm thinking, okay, I gotta head over to the privy, and the privy is in kind of a weird spot. You can't see it from where we were camping, and I knew, okay, it's kind of in front of the shelter, but kind of off to the side a little ways, and there's all these little spur trails that are going off different places. So I got my headlamp on, and I'm heading over toward the privy. I'm not even halfway to the privy, and all of a sudden I felt like I was being watched, and I kind of did one of these. I kind of started scanning around with my headlamp, and then I noticed my headlamp catches 2 eyes looking back at me from up in one of the trees, and I froze because I'm like, is that an owl? Is that a possum, a raccoon? What the hell? And then it dawned on me where I was, and I thought, oh my God, this is the area where most of the people hung their bear bags. That's a freaking bear up the tree. And now I'm panicked because I'm like, oh my God, what if it's a cub? Where's its mother? And I literally started doing like this, like just sweeping my headlamp, turning around 360 degrees. And the wind is blowing, and the leaves are flying through the air. And I'm like, is there a mother bear around here? Am I getting in between her and her cub? I can't see anything else. I'm flashing my light all around. Can't see anything else. So I start making a wide berth away from that tree, just giving it a lot of berth. And the whole time as I'm walking, I didn't want to flash my light up, in its face and spook it and freak it out. But I would just turn my headlamp in that direction enough, just so that enough ambient light, and I could kind of glance up and I could see the eyes were looking back at me. And I could see the eyes would kind of like go back and forth like this, like it was scanning, looking around. So I give it a wide berth. My heart's pounding. I get to the privy, and all is well. It was a false alarm. It was just some gas. So whew, crisis averted. But now I got to get back to the tent. So I'm like, okay, how am I going to get back to the tent? I guess I'll just go the same way. I'll just kind of give a wide berth, and I'm stepping over, fallen trees, and there's branches on the ground that I'm having to step over, and the leaves are really deep, and the wind is blowing, and the branches are going. And the leaves are flying through the air. So I get about to where I had been when I first saw the eyes up in the tree, and I flash my headlamp in that direction, and I catch them again. I go, okay, it's still up there, and so I start giving it a wide berth, and I stop and I look up and I go, God, I can't believe that thing hasn't moved. It's been up in that tree. It's just, is it terrified? Is it actually getting into somebody's stuff and it's up there having a meal? I mean, what's going on here? So I muster the courage to like tilt my head up and point my headlamp straight up there in the tree. And what do I see? Not a bear, not a raccoon, not a possum, not an owl. I see one of these that someone had put 2 reflecting stickers about eye distance apart on their bag to identify it, but in the night, reflecting a headlight, my headlamp, it looked like 2 eyes, 2 animal eyes reflecting back up in that tree, and it dawned on me, oh my God, I was right. This is the tree area where everyone had hung their bear bags, but I was looking at a bear bag reflecting back at me. I made it back to my tent and got in. My wife's like, what the hell's going on out there? She goes, I can see your light flashing all around. You're flashing your headlight. I said, honey, I'll tell you in the morning. I've just had an experience. So anyway, that was my my almost bear encounter on the AT. I thought you might enjoy that story. So just remember, when you're putting those stickers on your bear bags that you're going to hang up, just don't make them look like animal eyes, okay? Because you're going to freak somebody like me out. All right? Hope you enjoyed the story, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.